So today we're learning about a very special type of relation that's called a function. And a function is a relation in which for each input, for each x, there is exactly one y. So you can think about the x going into a function machine. Basically, a function machine is going to be like an equation. There's something done to the x, and there's only one possible answer that can come out, and that is the output, which is y, but it's a function of x. So you're going to see it written as a function of x. We're doing something to the x, and we're getting a very specific y. So you can see whether something is a function or not in a couple of different ways. One way is if you're given an ordered pair. You should see that for every x, there is only one y associated with it. So if I put in 1, b is the only possible output that I can get. 5, a, 8, b. If you look at an ordered pair and you see that you have the same domain, like you have 5, but you're getting 2 different answers, that cannot be a function. Because if you put in 1 input, there's only one possible output that can come out. You can also see it represented in a map, which I'm going to show you down here. So they'll draw an arrow connecting each domain with the range that comes out. If you put in 1, you get B. If you put in 5, you get A, 8, B. This is a function. This is not a function because 5 is going to 2 different outputs, going to 2 different range values, and that can't happen in a function. It can only match up with exactly 1. Another way that you'll see it represented is in a table. So you see the first table, they're different inputs. Every x is different, and they match up with a different y value. But -2 only goes to 5. When you put in -1 into the function, you're only going to get 6. This middle one is not a function because you see that you're repeating a domain value. When I put in 1 into the function one time, I get 4. And when I put in 1 another time into the function, I get 0. If I put in a domain, there is only one y value that should be coming out. So this example, that's not a function. Here again, we're seeing this is a function. Now this is a function. This is interesting because I have very different domain values, different x values. My y values, you see that 3, when I put in -6, I get 3, and when I put in 6, I get 3. It's okay if you have the same range value come out for different inputs, but when you put something in, it can only match to one number, and that's sometimes a thing that's confusing about functions. You cannot repeat a domain value like this. I can't have 1 go in one time and get 4 and then put in the same number and get 0. But I can have 2 different numbers in my domain have the output of the same range value. So this is a function. And the last thing is the vertical line test. So if you have a graph and you're looking at a graph and you're trying to decide if it's a function or not, all you have to do is draw a vertical line. And it should only pass through the graph one time. So it should only intersect the graph at one point. So this would be an example of a function because if I draw a vertical line really anywhere on this graph, it's only going to pass this graph at one point. This is not a function because when I draw a vertical line, really at any point, it's going to pass through more than once. So by looking at a function all these different ways, you can determine whether it's a function or not.